Thank you. It's great to be here. Before I get started, how many people here actually live in New York City? Raise your hands. Bronx. Campus? Here we go. Brooklyn. None? Two? All right, cool. Two. Word. All right. Ever wonder why certain cities are more popular than others? Or even just better yet, why certain cities or certain neighborhoods or certain communities year after year after year gain in popularity while others simply just don't? For those of us that live in New York City, we know that we're going through this once-in-a-generational shift. And one way an economist would answer that question would be like, just a matter of supply and demand, right? There's, for housing, for example, there's either an oversupply of housing or housing markets actually completely underserved. Well, that doesn't actually answer our question, though, right? It only answers about half of the question. For those of us that live in the city, we know that we're going through this housing revolution. We see that every day. But why is it that neighborhoods like North Brooklyn, year after year after year, gain in popularity, while neighborhoods like the Upper East Side are actually losing residences since 2010? So another way of answering that question would be, well, maybe it's an amenities factor, like access to transportation, housing, parks and recreation, and a laundry list of other things. And ultimately, you have yourself with is almost like a laundry list of items, and just check whichever one applies to you. Well, we know that does not apply to all of us. So why is it that certain neighborhoods succeed and others don't? And why is it that we can have neighborhoods that look like this one day, and next look like this? And I found an answer in a subject that I absolutely hated when I was a student in college, and that was biology. A quick show of hands here, around again. How many here have ever taken a marketing class? How many here have ever taken a biology class? Oh, quite a few of you. Okay, so I'll try not to make this as painful as possible and bring back bad memories. As a founder and CEO of a real estate technology startup, I use biology every day to qualify our reports, and I use biology every day to actually increase our business. And I'd like to share with you 3 foundational principles I use every day to generate growth for our business and to help look at cities maybe a little bit differently. The first, Bio 101, endocytosis. Who remembers endocytosis? Okay, quite a few, that's good. Endocytosis is a process that enables our cells to grow and remain healthy. This is natural within the body, right? Like us as humans, we eat, we get some exercise, we get strong and healthy, and we grow, right? Well, same thing with our cells. This is our cell, also an egg. And this is food. The process in which a cell eats is called endocytosis, right? Well, this also applies to help explain how certain neighborhoods actually gain in popularity and grow. So take, for example, Williamsburg. For those of you that actually are not familiar with Williamsburg, Williamsburg is located in North Brooklyn. And for those of you that are not from New York, Brooklyn, if it was a city unto itself, would be the 3rd largest city in the United States, just second behind Los Angeles. It's also, according to the New York Times, the epicenter of the hipster movement. So in 2010, we saw a rise in population in Williamsburg. Since 2010, there's been a 50% increase in population in Williamsburg since 2010. Why? Why does Williamsburg get to increase in population while every other market in the city of New York actually decreases or just remains constant throughout the city of New York? Answer, through endocytosis. So since 2010 to 2015, there's been an increase in real estate-related activities, transportation, retail, parks and recreation, and a few others. And with that brings an onslaught of brand new people, a larger cell. So the biology is, if you feed your cells will naturally get larger. How it applies to cities, if we invest and feed our cities and our communities will continue to grow. Not so painful, right? Next, mitosis. Mitosis is a method of cell division. Cell division is healthy within our bodies. We need cell division to maintain a balanced body, a balanced cell count. How do we apply mitosis to our communities? Well, if we take the same map and same diagram, what ends up happening with mitosis in neighborhoods like this, when a cell grows to a certain stage, it must split. The cell naturally wants to split because the cell has reached critical mass. Well, the same thing happens in neighborhoods and communities like Williamsburg. There's natural spillover. For those of us that are actually in the real estate industry or are economists or researchers, this is a great way to actually predict trends. Because of mitosis, Greenpoint, the neighborhood just directly north of Williamsburg right here, increased in population by 14%. And Bushwick, just right here, increased by around 3 to 6% from 2014 to 2015. So as you can see, as the cell gets larger, it naturally wants to split, and communities will naturally want to split off and create micro-communities. The same can be said about the startup community. We all know that New York City has a growing technology startup community. And for those of you that are not familiar with startups is like a new generation of businesses based upon technology. And according to Made in New York, there are roughly around 2,000 startups in the city of New York and about 80 investors. Why 80 investors is important is because when you start mapping out investors on the map, you start noticing trends. As you can see, the center nucleus is Flatiron and Union Square, and what ends up happening is cell divisions start forming. As the cell gets larger, it reaches critical mass, secondary communities will start forming. So the biology is when a cell reaches critical mass, the cell will naturally want to split. The science in real estate and communities is when a cell reaches critical mass, you'll have natural spillover, and you could predict trends and future growth of other markets as well. Apoptosis. Apoptosis is a controlled programmed self-destruction of cells. If there's a beginning, there's an end. This is when a cell commits suicide, to put it nicely. But this is, no, honestly, this is when a cell naturally dies off. And this is natural and healthy within cells, right? Cells, when they reach a certain point, they've reached the maturity of their life cycle, and they naturally die off. But how does this apply to cities and real estate? Well, picture a dinner plate and dropping on the floor and watching it shatter, and there's a bunch of million pieces on the floor now. Those million pieces, that process is apoptosis. And that happens also in our communities. When you don't invest in your community and there's a lack of investment in your community will naturally die, right? So this also happened in communities like the Upper East Side. Since 2010, there's been a decrease in population by around 6% according to the US Bureau. And so what ends up happening is when you have a center mass that's neglected and not cared for, natural cell divisions will begin to occur. And when you have these natural cell divisions, the cells won't want to die and kill themselves off, microcommunities start forming, and you have a smaller dense population and smaller communities and smaller neighborhoods. So the biology is apoptosis is a natural form of death for a cell. How it applies to cities and our communities, if you neglect your city and you neglect your community will actually also die off as well. So just a quick recap. Endocytosis is how a cell grows, in our case how cities and communities grow. Mitosis is how cells split. In our case, is how cities and communities split. Apoptosis is how cells die. In our case, how cities and communities die. And in closing, well, I've spent the better part of my career leveraging biology to increase our competitive advantage and our knowledge of cities. I hope after today's discussion, we can actually look at cities as living and breathing structures rather than just bricks. Thank you very much.